Nobody. Prof. Morning, sir. I'm supposed to chair this session. Oh. Yes, I checked. I will share one link with you now. I'll share that. This last panel, we're going to have two presentations. The first is by Raoul Folatokunbo Salako from Leeds City University, and it is titled Mitigating Japa Workplace Happiness and Healthcare Workers in Ibadan. The second will be by Drs. Adiola Adam and Olushola Ojo, and the topic is Decolonizing Nigeria's Security Architecture, Challenges and Prospects. Drs. Adams and Ojo will be presenting virtually. So please, once they join, any of them join us, let us, are they there? Yeah. Let us, okay. Oh, good.
Yes, sir.
We are here. Professor Jonah, please.
Yes, Prof.
I yield to you. Please go ahead. You are the chair of this session.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have Ruaf Olatukumbo online?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here. He's on ground. He's physically present.
Okay, good. Okay, go ahead with your presentation.
Can we take the all-life people first, because they've been having issues all along? So we can take them first, so we can now.
Okay, who do we have?
We have Dr. Ojo.
Who do we have online?
Dr.
Okay.
Ojo.
Yes. Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, Dr. Ojo, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Please permit me to share the slides.
Share yourself.
Sorry, my apology. Let me open the slide. I'm sorry. Trying to share the slide. Yes. Please, can we share? Can we see?
Yes, we can.
Our slide?
We can see your slide. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Like Prof had earlier introduced the topic. The topic we want to present is decolonizing the security sector for peace and security in Nigeria. And we are two authors that developed this article. Adiola Adams and myself, Olushola Matthew Ojo. We are from National Open University of Nigeria. The central argument of this article article is actually in line with the ideology of Japada. But we are looking at it, within the context of security architecture, meaning that as a people, Africa generally, the time has actually come for us to believe in ourselves, for us to know that there is need, to actually look inward and extract what we have to develop ourselves. After all, before colonialism itself, Africa had existed. Africa had been in existence. So this mentality of we cannot do anything, without actually depending absolutely on Western orientation, should that mentality, should not be allowed to continue. Yes, it is a global community where we cannot afford, we cannot avoid sharing ideas, sharing ideology, sharing political philosophy and what have you. But we cannot continue to depend solely on what is foreign. In other words, this Eurocentric mentality, of anything that comes from the Western world is the best, should be deleted from our mindset. So the same thing applies to the security architecture. Now we find that despite the fact that we have had independence, since 1960, talking about Nigeria particularly, we still find that we have not really end the idea of colonialism. So the decolonization process still, we have scholars from different academic learning who have continued to challenge the post-colonial discourse in a manner that suggests that African nations are still being held in post-colonial, mentality. So the fact remains that contemporary African societies are still under the grip of colonialism in economic terms, in political terms, and of course, in the area of security. We all listen to our own Professor Emeritus, Professor Peter Okebukola, emphasizing the need, for us to believe in whatever, comes from Africa. We try to make some operational definition of times. We talk about decolonization. We talk about, security sector, and of course, security. Let me talk about decolonization. You see, as a former colony, continue to, when we talk about colonization, this is a former colony that continue to experience over-presentation of Eurocentrism and Western, ideology in all aspects of socio-cultural life, and efforts have been made to reevaluate biases and incorporate indigenous viewpoints and practices that can support sustainable peace and development, in contemporary Africa in general, and of course, Nigeria in particular. So the colonization process offers to acknowledge and of course to support and to validate, the need for indigenization in every area of our lives. When we talk about cultural practices, the knowledge system, and so on, the understanding is that decolonization should extend to this area. The time has come for us as a people to know that Africa is not a creation of Western of the Western world, so to speak. But Africa is an entity in its own, and we have our culture, we have our belief systems, we have our, security architecture, even before the Western world, find their way to this part of the world. And of course, when we look at the level of insecurity nowadays, and if we compare it with what obtained, before the era of colonialism, we find that our forefathers were able to actually manage themselves. They were able to manage themselves, they were able to ensure security, and they applied African methodology, African orientation. So the fact we are trying to make is that we have porous, we have security dilemma, in contemporary times, not necessarily because it is we're in the modern, we're in the contemporary era, but because we have actually, undermined our own security, architecture. We have undermined what belongs to us, with our the stakeholders in the process of political, in the political realm, have actually abandoned African instruments. They have failed to actually incorporate African, ideology, African security architecture into the process of security management. We the theory of the colonialism, that is the colonial theory, which recognizes national security through the application of both indigenous and Western approaches, and of course, and when we look at security in historical, in the historical context of Nigeria, trying to primarily protect the British colonial interest, to and the idea is not actually in the interest of the entire national security, as it were, but the situation that we find ourselves in the contemporary Nigerian community. Now, let's look at indigenous knowledge, and another aspect of security concerns that need to be decolonized is that the conventional security system has not really officially embraced indigenous knowledge. Like I said earlier, we have some indigenous scholars who have, worked in this area. Scholars like Professor Nwolise of the University of Ibadan. They describe, Nwolise actually talks about strategic spiritual intelligence that needs to incorporate strategic spiritual intelligence into our security architecture, particularly the use of charms, amulets, incantations, and other cultural practices that involve the invocation of, metaphysical powers. We should not condemn everything that is ours. We should not. We should decolonize our mindset by believing that whatever is Afrikaans can actually add value to the contemporary, security management in Africa. Our forefathers believed in Egbe, within the Yoruba, setting in Western Nigeria. If they are in our insecurity situation, our forefathers can consult the spiritual realm and use Egbe to, disappear from that scenario, and they will find safety for themselves. There is need for as a decolonizing strategy. There is need. There's the urgent need to transform the existing security architecture. Security sector reforms should be all-encompassing or comprehensive enough to mobilize the citizenry to be critical stakeholders in the security sector. It also implies that the current security system needs to be decentralized to allow, security, in the interest of the entire citizenry. And of course, decolonizing the security sector should also make it as a point of urgency to institute an elaborate research consortium to carry out on local intelligence and indigenous knowledge in order to shed more light on what we have as a people, and by extension, to legitimize and liberalize the use of whatever belongs to us as Africans. We have all this inherent in our culture. Our forefathers were able to maintain peace and security in their respective domains before the era of colonialism because they practiced what belonged to them. Now that we're in the modern era, we should not abandon whatever belongs to us as a people within the context of, security architecture. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Adams, for your presentation. I hope I'm being heard.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Adams, for your insightful presentation on colonizing security architecture, challenges and prospects. This was a wonderful contribution to knowledge. At least you try to add the idea of a security architecture in terms of in decolonizing the source. I wouldn't know other people who might have questions. I have some brief comments. Then we will entertain questions. If I get you right, exploring African solutions to African security problems, which is actually being a side. Something that we will need to add in your paper, because the kind of discussion we are doing, we have facilitated discuss in honor of Prof. Tijani, and we hope that this discussion today will transit to greater assignment and more academic engagement after this exercise. We have actually.
Can you please stop sharing your slides?
2 days ago, talk about how
okay.
Please go ahead, Prof.
As it stops, sir.
So one very key thing that you might actually improve so that your audience will be able to get a better picture. Talking about security architecture, we already have an existing security architecture. We had thought that you would have actually demonstrated what the existing security architecture is. For instance, now if you get to the Northeast region, the security architecture operating currently is a triangular engagement. The multinational joint task force with regards to engagement in the Chad Basin. We now have the Nigerian military on one hand, and then we have the hunters and vigilantes, into what we call the joint task force. So to some extent, if you go to some places like which decolonizing the security architecture also entails that we go on with actually knowing what is operation. The first time I went to Europe, something where I just went into the street, I wanted to administer. They say no, you can't operate in Damaturu unless we get to the Emir's palace. The Emir gives you approval before you can go. But we didn't know that, right? The last time I saw that we need an identity card or a pass for the secondary school university. So we actually needed a pass, and we saw that there is a difference in the architecture that operates, in those zones aside what we used to, where the emirs have been operated into engagement and all that. But all this is a very insightful engagement, but even till this morning before now, I was having some other engagement of why do we consistently use the same approach, despite that the problems have persisted. The Boko Haram is nearing 2 decades. Governments have actually been using the same approach yet. British agitation in Southeast more than 30, 40, 50 years. Same approach, no solutions and all that. So if looking at our security architecture is one of those things that they need to be done. Just raise the architecture. And yes, we have questions.
Prof, before we take the questions, can we have the other presentations so that we take all the questions together?
Okay, the second presenter.
Okay.
Prof, second.
My name is Tokumbo Salako.
Hello, Prof.
Yeah, he's already started presenting. Yeah.
Can you hear me, sir?
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so my name is Tokumbo Salako. I am a psychologist, but I have so much interest in humanities, and that's why I find myself in ASA. And I have tried so much to bring my paper to be a general knowledge paper, to connect it to make it a multidisciplinary paper. My paper is actually talking about the relationship between workplace happiness and commitment of healthcare workers. And my scope is the healthcare workers in Ibadan metropolis in Oyo State, Nigeria. Now, we know that the Japa syndrome has actually ransacked our healthcare system, especially in Nigeria, even more than the academics, because the nurses, the doctors, pharmacists, they have better opportunities abroad, even compared to academics. And the fact that, please go to the next slide. The fact that we were unfortunate with the COVID-19 pandemic that came in 2019, which actually created a bigger problem for our health sector, because pre-COVID-19, the WHO has a statistic that says that only 3% of the healthcare workforce in the world are in Africa. Only 3% of the total healthcare workers in the world are in Africa. And Africa has 24% of the diseases in the world. So Africa being just one continent has 24% of the diseases in the world, and we have just 2% of healthcare workers. Now, when COVID came, the advanced countries opened their borders to even the healthcare workers in Africa. That is not enough. So this is a big problem for us in Africa, especially in Nigeria, whereby our hospitals now are crying for help. And my work is, I use 5 particular hospitals in Ibadan. I use the University College Hospital, Adeoyo Memorial Hospital, and 3 other university hospitals that you will see in the course of my presentation. Like I have, the healthcare system is very pivotal to societal well-being. Any community, any society that does not have good healthcare system is likely to collapse. Healthcare professionals, please, first slide. Healthcare professionals, including doctors, nurses, pharmacists, support staff, they operate in a system whereby it is very stressful and it is emotional demanding. Burnout, dissatisfaction are prevalent among these healthcare workers due to the systemic insufficiencies, resources shortage, and overwhelming workload. The challenges led to frustration and detachment, which has driven many to seek opportunities in other industries, which has now resulted into huge brain drain. Next slide. These are simple causes of commitment, of low commitment, which led to Japa. Economic issues, poor salaries, global factors. Like I said, after COVID-19, developing nations opened their borders, and they are now actively recruiting from Nigeria. In fact, the CMD of University College Hospital said that in 2021 September, every day he signed 5 nurses out. Every day in September 2021, an average of 5 nurses are leaving UCH because they are going abroad, and that is a big problem. We also have working conditions. We talk about the inadequate infrastructure. There are so many issues in our hospitals. For example, the University College Hospital, which is supposed to be the foremost general hospital in Nigeria. I'm sure some of us will know that sometime last year, they don't have electricity, which is crazy, which is not supposed to be normal. But over time, it became a norm. They have time whereby they put on inverter, they have a time where they own generator. And if you want to give birth, you have to come with petrol. Yes, it was that bad. You have to come with 5 liters of petrol, yes. The CMB confirmed it. So it was in a very crazy situation. So the working conditions are not okay. Again, they complain of lack of career development, inadequate mentorship. Also, specialized trainings are not available for them in Nigeria, unlike their contemporaries abroad. Another factor is the social factors. The kidnapping issues and insecurities are ravaging the country. Doctors are actually targets because they believe that if you kidnap a doctor, the person is likely to pay than any other Nigerian. So these factors are issues that led to Japa majorly. Now, I have also these factors that we feel that our wage is kind of similar. I have high propensity to want to stay in my country. If government can also advance technology, there are so many infrastructural issues that we are talking about. There are some diseases that the moment you get usage for it, they refer you abroad because the fatality rate is very high. Social reforms too, social reforms like insecurity issues, if this can be resolved, some people will feel that, okay, I am safe and I want to still stay in my country. Then career growth opportunities. If the career path is clear, then healthcare workers will want to stay in Nigeria. These are some factors that we feel that can reduce that gap. So next slide. My work talks about workplace happiness and organizational commitment. Workplace happiness is the positive emotional state experienced by employees in their work environment. In this study, I conceptualize it into work satisfaction and work engagement. Work satisfaction is just the pleasurable emotional state for the approval of one's job, that I am satisfied with my job. And engagement is how we perceive our work as fulfilling. Then commitment, which is the second variable, talks about the concept of commitment encompasses multiple factors that contribute in either promoting or weakening the individual work performance in relationship with their organization. If people are not committed to the organization, then their commitment is going to be weakened, and this is definitely going to affect their performance. In this study, commitment is divided into 3 dimensions, and the first is talking about affective commitment. Affective commitment is the emotional attachment that healthcare workers have to their institutions. The continuous commitment is talking about the cost. Healthcare workers see that if I leave, for example, a doctor in University of Lagos Teaching Hospital or in the University College Hospital Ibadan can perceive that if I leave my job now, what is the certainty that I'm going to get a better job in the near future? So the continuous commitment can make them to look at the cost and benefits of leaving their job. This can make them to still stay in the institution. And the normative commitment is the norm. Doctors and nurses are expected to save lives. So some of them feel like if I leave, these people will die. So it is not because they are emotionally attached or because they are looking at the cost and benefit, but because some of them feel that it is my duty to actually help my country to save lives. That is why we have some doctors and nurses that they will put their hands in their pockets to bring out money to pay for some tubes and drugs for patients, which is not normal. So the aim of my project is to explore the potential influence of workplace happiness on commitments among the healthcare workers. And the objective is simple: it's just to determine if workplace happiness will influence commitments of healthcare workers in Ibadan metropolis. Now, I have 2 hypotheses for the study. Let me go next slide. And I use 2 theories, the social exchange theory, because the social exchange theory talks about the costs and cost and benefits of your interactions. The social exchange theory explains better the reason why many young doctors are leaving. Because if you compare your contemporaries in the UK, and there are opportunities for you there. So why do you want to stay in your country? Because the cost is so much, the benefit over there is better. Then I use the organizational commitment theory because the organizational commitment theory explains commitment perfectly using the 3 dimensions I mentioned earlier, the affective dimension, the continuous, and the normative commitments. Now, the scope of my study is restricted to healthcare workers working in public hospitals in Ibadan. Because this issue of commitment is mainly prevailing in public hospitals. Many private hospitals, they work on pay as you go. Many doctors in private hospitals, it is because they feel that, okay, what I'm getting is okay for me, or I can leave at any time. Because the career path in private hospitals is not as structured as the career path in private hospitals. So the healthcare workers in this study are doctors, nurses, pharmacists, technicians, and administrators. When I say administrators, I mean those people that are working in the hospital, but that they are not medical officers. Maybe like the secretaries, like the cleaners, and the likes. Even the managers in the hospitals. So the participants and procedure. The respondent for this study comprises clinical and administrative, like I explained earlier. And when I shared the questionnaire, I was able to get 397. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, to this explain the sample size determination, I use Casey and Morgan because I know the exact population of these hospitals, the 5 hospitals I picked. I know it's a finite population, so I use Casey and Morgan. And while doing the calculation from the hospitals, Casey and Morgan gave me 336. But for attrition, I added 100, which make it 436. So the sampling technique I use is I use multi-stage sampling technique. And the stage 1 involves purposive selection. Like I said earlier, I purposively select these hospitals because they are public hospitals and the issue in context is related to them. Then after selecting these public hospitals, I had to divide these professionals in strata: doctors, nurses, administrators, pharmacists. And after that, in different strata that I've divided them into, I had to do random sampling because random sampling is better than probability sampling. So this is how I did the sample size distribution. This is just a simple explanation. So I said the University College Hospital, from the data I got from them, says they have a staff strength of 2,675. The Jericho Nursing Home, Jericho Specialized Hospital, Adeoyo Memorial Specialized Hospital, and Adeoyo Yemetu Hospital. These are popular public hospitals in Ibadan metropolis. And the total gave 3,496. Can go to the next slide. So, like I said, a total of 435 questionnaires were distributed. Now, these questionnaires were distributed to the healthcare workers that are still in the country, those that are still working, despite the fact that they have opportunities to travel abroad, despite the fact that the infrastructures are not enough. So, they are the ones that answered this question. And from sharing 435, I was able to get 397. And I got informed consent from all the participants. They signed informed consent to participate in the study. And those who consented, they signed a written consent, acknowledging that they understand and they agree to participate in the research. So the research instrument used for this study was a structured questionnaire. And the first section collected demographic information, their age, the number of years they spend on the job. And what I found out is actually very interesting. The second section measured commitments, and I used the organizational commitment scale by Mayer and Allen, developed in 1997. The scale reliability comes to 0.70, which indicates that it has a high level of measurement reliability. Then for workplace happiness, I used the shortened happiness at work scale, and the shortened happiness at work scale also report the reliability coefficient of 0.87. Sorry, I'm using this data because I'm a psychologist. So I hope you bear with me. So I used T-test sample of independence to do the data analysis. And the results, like I explained, this next movement, that I have 177 male and 219 female that participated in the study. And their age range from 25. Yeah. So we have 25 years old, 26 years old working in the hospitals that they are still around, despite the fact that the Japa has taken almost all the young people in healthcare workforce to the US, UK, and some other developing countries. And those that participated range from 25 to 28 years. The mean is 41.58. The length of the job range from 2 years to 37 years. So which means some people that joined 2 years ago are still on the job, and even senior professors that are still on the job. This is just the data to show how I appropriate the figures to different hospitals. 148 doctors working in the healthcare system in Nigeria. The second hypothesis that reports that those that have high workplace happiness will expect continuous commitment. The second one. Okay. Finally, for the second one, shows that continuous commitment, like I explained earlier, is the cost of leaving the organization. The funny thing is that those that are still working in the hospitals, they don't see the cost of leaving as a major reason why they are around. Because the cost of living as an healthcare worker, you have better opportunities abroad. So the hypothesis is not supported. So unlike affective commitments, whereby they are emotionally attached, the cost of living is not the main reason why they are still working. The third hypothesis that talks about the norm. Now, this is also supported. It shows that some persons feel that it is my duty to still be working as a healthcare worker in Nigeria. I have a vivid example. My favorite cousin is a medical doctor. She's going through a lot in UCH, but she feels that it is her duty to save lives, and she lives in Ibadan and she wants to continue because she does not want Ibadan to collapse. So the hypothesis is also supported, and the findings explain it clearly. People that are still happy doing their job as healthcare workers are those that have emotional attachment, and those that feel that it is my duty as an healthcare worker to continue saving lives. As government officials, in the past, they used to have good wages and good in the past, healthcare workers are like the highest paid people in Nigeria. In the past, doctors are well paid. Doctors are well paid more than bankers, more than professors, more than engineers. But the reverse is the case now. The doctors are complaining, just like the academicians are also complaining. So the reverse is the case. So government needs to understand that you need to invest in your employee well-being. There are programs that they need to organize so that the employee will feel connected to the organization and they will feel valued. The third is that they need to enhance job security and career development. So many young doctors are complaining about career development. In the past, after you finish your MBBS, you did your NYSC, you're almost certain that you are going to start your residency program. But right now, reverse is the case because the institutions are complaining that they don't have enough funding to even bring doctors that have graduated. They are ready to become a resident doctor to the hospital. I found out that in some departments, in some units in the University College Hospital and Adeoyo Memorial Hospitals, before they used to have like 6 residents under a unit. They are running a simple shift. But now we found just 1 or 2 resident doctors, and they are running the shift concurrently. So which means that they are on call every other day. And doctors are not supposed to be on call because it's going to affect their own health themselves. But what we found in the University College Hospital now, in some specialized units, including surgery, is that the same doctor will be on call every other day, which is not supposed to be. The fourth recommendation that we found out is that government also needs to introduce a proper retention strategy. When you have medical students graduating, there must be a proper strategy to keep them in the country. Government cannot shy away from the fact that people are just buying and they don't care about it. Government needs to be serious about it. You need to address the factors that are making them leaving the country. For example, we found out in the course of the study that nurses were leaving the country in masses, to the extent that the CMD, the Chief Medical Director of Lagos University Teaching Hospital, said that they have to call back nurses that have retired because they don't have nurses again in their work. Now, nurses retire at the age of 60. Now, they are calling those old women back to come and work because they don't have enough nurses again. Now, instead of government to address this issue, government is trying to make rules that will make nurses not to be able to travel out of the country, to make it more difficult for them to travel. This happened 3 years ago. But the Nurses Association in the 40s, and they were able to defeat government in court. And now they are still living in masses. So government needs to develop protection strategies whereby the trained nurses will go to the School of Nursing program, and you have to make sure that there are opportunities for them to work and be well paid in the country. Okay, let's go to the limitation. Okay, so like I said, that this is a pre-study. There are some limitations that we found out at the end of the study. One is that the study has said that the cross-sectional design that was used limit the ability to study. Now that we've done the cross-sectional study, if we can do a longitudinal study whereby we do a follow-up maybe in 6 months, in 1 year, to see if these people that participated in this study are still working in the hospital. This will be able to confirm the hypothesis that the result of our work to show that, okay, affective commitment and normative commitment that we claim is making them stay, is still making them stay. Because it's a cross-sectional study. Some of them, maybe after filling the questionnaire that we gave them, maybe they are even already planning to leave. Maybe some of them have changed their mind. You know what? Even though I'm attached to this organization, I'm tired, and they've left. So we believe that a longitudinal study would provide a clear understanding of how these factors influence commitment over time. Yeah. The second is that the study relied on self-reported data. And we all know that self-reported data can have social desirability bias. People can respond to it based on what they feel at the time, based on their personal bias. Again, we feel that future research incorporate qualitative methods such as in-depth interview. We didn't carry out interview, we just used social questionnaire. And in-depth interview can help us to gain richer insight into the healthcare workers' experience. I thank you for your time, sir.
All right, thank you very much. We're having some technical glitches here and there. Please note down your questions. We have a third presentation. Please, can you join us? If you are here for Dr. Anima Sham, Professor Anima Sham. All right, please sit here. Illusion or a reality. It was supposed to have been taken on Wednesday, but they were not available, so we availed them the opportunity to come today. All right, it is written by Professor Bashir Olaleko Anima Sham and Dr. Yetunde Ayege. So it's going to be presented by this gentleman who is standing in for them. What's your name, sir? Huh? Olaiya. Okay, you're welcome, sir. Now we share the slide. You have just 12 minutes to speak to us, and then we'll take all the questions at the end.
So good morning, everybody. I got this paper a while ago. I'm here to share the thoughts.
They cannot hear you.
The thoughts of the authors on the concepts of Japada and Japa. Actually, the title is anchored on the Japada.
Please, can you come and sit here so that you're not back in there?
Okay. So Japada,
yes.
as a concept, is premised on the generic term Japa. So without Japa,
you are back in the camera. Please come this way. Okay, I think it's better. Yes.
So, Japada reflects a belief among Nigerians that those who leave the country in search of better opportunities will eventually return. That's the concept of a Japada. Like I said, the generic term is a Japa. So, the paper was structured in such a way to actually amplify what a Japa connotes and the motivations for Japa. And when you look at Japa, well, that is it has become a phenomenon. People, the willingness to migrate out of the country as a result of several factors, and those factors are highlighted here: corruption, insecurity, unemployment, and several others. In Nigeria, as a matter of fact, it is even possible for one to identify about 100 factors that influence the migration of people out of the country. And whenever we look at a Japa, we look at it as a one-way phenomenon. We don't look at the other side of it. It is also possible for one to Japa at the same time to also consider Japada. That is for those who have been compared to Japa in the first place, to also be encouraged to return back to the country after. And so attention has always been focused on the Japa. But this paper essentially identifies the concept of Japada as the derivative of Japa. So in the paper, so it is acknowledged that migration is a practice that is universal and that has always been part of human existence. People always have a reason, of course, to move out of their original habitat. As a matter of fact, we are all familiar with the theory of evolution or creation. But we know at some point that people began to disperse. Just at the beginning of human evolution of our human origin, people actually dispersed. So we are looking at this phenomenon, and this became so popular, especially after the COVID-19 crisis that we witnessed in the early 2020s. So many Nigerians had the cause to leave the country, and it is still continuous. So for the authors, they are looking at the other side of it. So what will encourage the people that have migrated out of the country to return? So here, they identified one important gain from Japa. If it is not just enough for government or for people to lament about people migrating, what do you make out of it? So Japa, as discussed earlier, is conceived purely as a crisis of brain drain, the manifestation of brain drain. But Japada will actually bring some benefits. Instead of brain drain, they will see it from the perspective of brain drain, because those who have gone outside must have been exposed to a different environment, skills, some technical skills that are, and so many other factors. So how do we take advantage of what they have accomplished? Then, one, it is now a reality that one of the major means of foreign exchange heading for the country today is diaspora remittances and investment. Many that have left actually, it is now a point it has, we are at a stage in the country whereby in most cases many families depend on the relative friends abroad for survival. So if those people are not there to the companies, some of the things, some of the benefits that they confer on their dependents wouldn't have been there. Then the author, yes, you can question, but the author also mentioned if brain gain is what can be derived from a Japada, then there should be mechanisms, particularly institutional mechanism for engaging with the diaspora management. And the responses included the establishment of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, and the one that decided by Ibikunle, and the approval of the National Diaspora Policy in 2021. These are strategies designed to facilitate structured engagement with the diaspora to promote knowledge transfer and encourage investment. In addition, bilateral recognition of qualifications in pro-visa regimes for returnees and diaspora bonds offer new tools for national development. And that is another important because the Japada as a way is also a tool for national development for any serious African country that actually wants to.
I would like to know this slide.
How you using the slide? I'm not using the slide. I just got the paper, so I just want to run. And the mechanisms are stated as institutional mechanism for diaspora engagement, retention focused reforms, and this implies what the federal government and what the federal and state governments are doing now, and what they are also expected to do more by investing in improving working conditions in key sectors such as healthcare, education, and research. Then reintegration program for those that have gone outside the country. How do we reintegrate them back into the system? And to have proper data analysis to know what they have been able to do and the conditions that that must be provided that will be conducive for those that have gone abroad. Now, let me just summarize everything. Here we are talking about reality, but it's a reality. Japa is a reality, Japada is also a reality. But the question is, how many of those that have migrated out of the country are actually encouraged to return? But there are many plethora problems that are compelling them to stay back and also to continue to constitute the bulk of diaspora communities out there, because the problem that initially led them to migrate are deeply, particularly the problem of insecurity. So to come home and invest in a place where it is very easy, very possible to identify someone that just as a target for kidnapping, ethnic cleansing, some of those things. Then we have a society where policy somersaults are the norms. Policy somersaults, inconsistencies, and whatever. So investment is not, these people have been elsewhere. They know what it means to have a system. Then you are returning into a system where nothing is civil systemic at all. How do you encourage such problems are highlighted by the authors, and they constitute the myth of Japada that we need to subject to further interrogation as to why it is not really possible for people after Japan to Japada into the country. Thank you very much.
Questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. I think now this is time for question, comments. We'll first take the questions, and then before comments. We have people who have questions.
Questions? Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, going, number 5, going, gone. Okay, we have 5 questions. Number 1. Okay. How do I time you now? Half or 6? Question 6. Okay, question 1. Yes.
Thank you, Prof.
Please, let's know who the question is to.
Yes, I'm directing my question to Dr. Salako, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Your study is a fantastic one, except the fact that we don't have a country that relies on intellectuals. This type of engagement perhaps will solve the number of problems in the single country. But I'm curious about something in your analysis. I look at the demography of the respondent, and I discovered that you said the age range of the respondent ranges from 37
No, 25 to 58.
That's the number.
That
is true to yes.
Oh, okay.
37.
Yes.
So, and I quickly made an inquiry. The number of service, as far as if exhibition is concerned, is 35 years for 65 years, whichever one comes first. I may know that I quickly contacted, and although she's not pursuing in Japan, but at least I want to get a clarification of who has spent 37 in the service. Is it a contract basis or what? I need a clarification on that.
I guess he will answer, but I also remember he said several of the nurses who had retired were recalled. I don't know whether they form part of his response. I don't know. I'm just thinking. Question number 2.
My first question goes to the presenter.
First presenter.
Yes, utilization of security.
Dr. Adam, please take notes. The question is to you. Yes, Dr.
Okay.
Ojo.
Yes, sir.
So, the question is, most of our funds are imported from nations. Okay.
Most of our what?
Ammunitions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So most of our ammunitions are actually imported from other countries. So in what way can we decolonize in the sense that we can begin to produce our indigenous ammunitions as a way to free ourselves? So that's my question. And my second question goes for Dr. Salako. I actually need clarification in the sense that because at the end of his presentation, he said that that they didn't do any in-depth interview. But while also talking, he also said he talked with the same thing. So I was confused. How were you able to talk with the same thing and yet you didn't do any in-depth interview? So that's my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Adam, I hope you got the question she asked.
Yes. Can I?
Not yet. Just take notes. Thank you. Number 3.
Thanks to the presenters for the presentations. My question goes to the first presenter. My first question on decolonizing the security sector. Now, I would like to ask, to what extent indigenous methodologies or indigenous styles, to what extent can they address the high level of insecurity in our present situation? Because I think we're trying to compare and contrast insecurity between days and our present situation. If you look at it, the insecurity state here is complex. Looking at food insecurity and all types of insecurity. Then you mentioned insecurity, and I was like, what kind of insecurity? We have food insecurity, we have health insecurity, we have insecurity in different sectors, child insecurity. So you want to contextualize or tell us to be specific the kind of insecurity, because it's a very wide concept. Then again, I would like to ask you another question, and this question is also directed to the top presenter. I would like to know if your paper is an empirical research or an opinion paper. If it is an empirical study or if it's an empirical study, I would like to know the research instruments and the research data. I'm highly interested. Thank you so much.
All right, that's 4.
My question is to the person. Thank you. Yeah, I understand the fact that institutional strategies need to be disseminated in order to reduce the Japanese yeah. Well, my question is, how then do you balance the need to retain these healthcare workers while respecting the fact that they need to seek for better opportunities like that.
Okay, 5. 5, sir. Yes.
Dr.
Salako.
Yeah, part of the question now, well, I just want to make that. The idea that it is a commitment for the people working in that sector as still drive in together is as significant as the question as we thought government taking place in the So for me, that's commitment is what I want to relate it to what we share because government policies are fully not designed to solve those problems in the way that's it. And so this means, yeah. I just wanted to ask the question. This concept, because it's a French concept now. Japada is a concept that I believe is militarized. The facts are there. Japada is one, or the Japada means. After the meeting, Japada is still a myth. Is this still a myth? When we have many others coming back, they are there. So for me, it's no longer in fact. The government keeps doing it. I don't know whether that's a fact. The remittance from diaspora contributes to so we still consider that as a need, or is it a fact in the current experience of the Nigerian?
Thank you very much. 6. That's you.
Afternoon. Thank you for your very interesting presentation. My first question is for Dr. Salako. One thing that was very fascinating about your study is the wide age range of participants. And so I wonder if you could speak more to the intergenerational dimension of your study. Did you notice any particular patterns? So for example, the 25-year-olds or the 20-year-olds, is there anything that is specific to their own experience versus maybe the retired nurse who's been asked to come back? I think that intergenerational dynamic is very important. And to our last presenter, I believe you gave us a very pragmatic approach to thinking about this phenomenon. That it can actually be beneficial to a society for people to go as long as they come back. And so, have you seen any model of how a country or state can effectively harness people's mobility, right? Like, I'm intrigued by your idea, but have you seen any model where someone has been effectively able to incentivize it and benefit from it?
All right, Prof, we've taken all the questions and they begin to respond now. Dr. Ojo, over
Yes,
to
sir.
the response.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prof. I thank everybody for being part of this exercise. And the first question about ammunition in relation to the contemporary times and how can we factor it into indigenous African, situation. You see, we in fact, that is the emphasis of this, the point is that we should not abandon everything that is indigenous in the name of, this is the contemporary era, in the name of Western orientation has given us solutions to social problems. We have a lot of, values inherent in our culture that can be, and incorporated into, the ideas and orientation that we can, borrow from the other clients. The argument is not that we should abandon, technological innovations from outside of Africa. But the argument we are making is that, we cannot afford to jettison what belongs to us. And if we look at the history of, development across the globe, you'll find that there is no society that has emerged, at the expense of what belongs to them, So the point we are making is that we can actually, our stakeholders in the political, realm can encourage research. They should encourage, innovation, which will actually enable us to look and research into how our forefathers were doing it. We have them, look at we have situations in Nigeria where all these ethnic militias, applied traditional, methods to secure themselves. Now, we should research into how it worked for them. We should not condemn them and say, oh, they are fetish or whatever. How did they protect themselves against, gunshots and not the rest of that? So that is the point we are making, that there is need to research into what belongs to us, and we can actually, apply them, and they can work for us. Now we are talking about depending on, Eurocentric orientations. The question is, have we been able to address the problem of insecurity? Despite the fact that we tend to depend largely on foreign orientation. Then on the issue of the concept of insecurity, thank you very much. The emphasis is on, physical insecurity in terms of, terrorism, banditry, ethnicity conflict, violence, and not the rest like that. That's our focus when we talk about the issue of insecurity, when we are talking about conceptualizing insecurity. And when we talk about security architecture, the focus is on how we can address these dimensions of insecurity that I have highlighted through the incorporation of indigenous approach in with what we can borrow from the outside of our continent. Yes. Thank you. I don't know whether I have addressed all the questions thrown to me.
Yes, I think you have. Thank you very much.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can just add, if it is permitted.
Dr. Adams.
Dr. Adams. Yes, Dr. Adams. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the privilege, sir. Okay, let me just add that when we're talking about developing our own indigenous technology, I think the question the lady asks is very, very pertinent, in the sense that we already have our local industries that produce most of these weapons. And of course, the only problem is that they're not being given prominence or attention at the official level. And we need a lot of research to be able to build this industry so that we can have what they call sustainable development. Most of the ones that we rely on from outside, they are not sustainable. They drain our national resources. And that the strategy behind the importation of weapons is to, kind of exterminate a race, because the kind of war that we fight in the pre-colonial period, we did not fight a total war. But now a lot of sophisticated weapons are being, chipped into the country, and we see a lot of genocidal war that we're fighting. You see communities who are hitherto, friendly, who are neighbors, who are relatives, they kill themselves in a very fierce, battle. And we need to define some of these things. The rules of engagement must change, and they must be indigenous. So if we develop our own industry in line with the kind of war that we want to fight and extent to which we are going to pursue this, I think it will really help us to be able to redefine our own identity and advance the cause of development.
All right,
thank you very much.
Your point is noted. We are running out of time. Dr. Salako.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, so the first question, sir, you said that the retirement age. So these are healthcare workers, and like I pointed out, they are doctors, they are nurses, they are pharmacists. Professors are medical doctors, they retire at 70. So they have a longer length. So I am very sure those that are 37 years are medical doctors that are professionals. But I have a couple of them that participated in the study, they were actually interested. So for the second question, you talk about the index. We didn't conduct any index exam. The voice of the CMB of English and the voice of the CMB of Lagos University Hospital are for literature review. For the CMB of English, they had an interview with the KB, where it was lamenting. And that was when they said that in September 2021, we had an average of 5 nurses that were submitting regulatory letters to the table, which is a literature review. So we didn't conduct an in-depth interview. It was just a very cross-sectional design. So the third person talk about factors that we all know the factors that can reduce that power. And I pointed some out. Increase in wage, competitive wage. If Nigerian doctors now are being paid in a way that is as competitive as those that are going to UK, many people will say, even though there are some other factors. Also, I talk about social factors. Insecurity is a major factor. And I said doctors are targeted for senior factors. So if these social reforms are being done and their wages are increased, data will reduce in the healthcare sector. This is what everybody is saying. So if they increase their wage and these other factors and infrastructural issues too, if they have proper infrastructures, data will reduce. There's another question about commitment. Why are people still working? If you are talking about commitment, so at the moment, doctors, even though we said they are badly paid, they are still relatively the highest earner in public sectors in Nigeria. So it is not that they don't have enough money to save in 1 year to leave the country. It is because of these other commitments that we found that some of them are emotionally attached, and some of them feel that it is a norm. And many people believe that to study medicine in Nigeria in public institutions is almost free in relation with studying in the US or in the UK. So for somebody that feels that it is my norm, I've been trained as a medical doctor and I pay small money, let me contribute to my country. So these are factors that we see that are making some of them to feel safe. Like I said, if it is that they don't want to leave, they will leave. They still have enough money than people that are struggling in Japan. So, okay, so we talk about the intergenerational perspective. Yes, ideally, they are supposed to be more house officers than registrars. They are supposed to be more registrars than senior registrars in our hospital. This is the ranking of medical doctors. They are supposed to be more senior registrars than senior consultants. And they are supposed to be more senior consultants than professors. The pyramid is supposed to be a pyramid. But what we have is the other way around. So there are more professors than registrars. And it does not make any sense. So I understand. So most of the people that participated in the study are more of older people. Now, it is correct that more of younger people are reading. And for the older people, there are some other factors, external factors actually, that are making them to stay. Some of them feel that they are already at the peak of their career. Even though some professors feel that, because of